This is One on One. We are pleased to welcome, as part of our Newark at a Crossroads series here at New Jersey Performing Arts Center, Bill Stephney, Principal, Broad Market Media, and also Senior Advisor, Newark Venture Partners. Good to see you, Bill.
Thank you for having me.
You have a fascinating background.
Thank you.
Let's talk about this for a second. Def Jam. You go back with those folks all the way, right?
Yeah, back to the mid-'80s, to their founding.
Who did you, Chuck D, you met back at Adelphi?
Yeah, Chuck D and I were classmates at Adelphi University together, and we also worked on the campus radio station.
You were the first paid employee who actually got a check at Def Jam.
Yeah, a check that didn't bounce. That was the key thing. Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. Actually, that one cashed, and I continued to work with them for about 4 years.
Let's bring it all the way back. So you've had this fascinating background in business, in making things happen. Give me the Newark connection.
On a number of levels. I live in Morris County, so when I moved from Brooklyn with my family to Morris County, you have to sort of come through Newark.
Right.
Over the years, I've had friends, acquaintances, business partners, enjoyed entertainment and culture here in the city, and really fell in love with the city. In fact, I met the current mayor, Ras Baraka, some 25 years ago, when he was a rapper and a poet attending Howard University.
You know what? Mayor Baraka sat right there a few months back, and recently we talked to him at NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology, and he talked about just that subject, about the Howard University experience, about his early career and what he thought he would be doing, and his social activism, and then his family growing up in the extraordinary family that he did, arts, culture, and social activism. So interesting you say that.
Sure, well, you know, it just shows you the breadth and level of talent that we have in the city and in the state, that you can meet an artistic young student some 20 plus years ago. And if you believe in them, if you invest in them, they can be mayor, actually, of the largest city in the state.
Talk about Newark Venture Partners.
Newark Venture Partners is a tech investment fund founded by Don Katz.
Over at Audible.
Over at Audible, the magical founder of Audible.com, who came up with what I think is a revolutionary idea for urban investing, that instead of focusing on the vague notion of creating opportunity or even job creation, what about idea creation? What about dream creation? How do we invest in those dreams? What if that young Ras Baraka in the South Ward has the idea for Uber or Facebook in his or her head? How does that get activated? How does that get invested in? Or if an entrepreneur, maybe based in Seattle, maybe based in San Francisco, enjoys or would like to enjoy the proximity of being so close to Wall Street and to New York City, and the virtues of being in the beautiful Garden State, but they're looking for a place to venue their new business, why not bring it to Newark, New Jersey?
How much, it's interesting as you talk about this Newark Venture Partners initiative, how much does that bring you back to your early days at Def Jam? And how much is the different from that?
It's not different, because the hip-hop industry, culture...
By the way, excuse me for interrupting. Describe that for those who may not be familiar with what that was and why it remains so incredibly important to hip-hop culture and, frankly, entertainment, the entertainment industry.
Well, you know, hip-hop in general began as a cultural peace movement located in the South Bronx and in Harlem back in the mid-'70s, formed by a number of cultural innovators themselves, Africa Bambaataa and Kool Herc, where parties were essentially developed and produced on the streets of the city as a way to combat gang violence. Well, that exploded over the course of 30 years to now a multi-billion-dollar industry that built firms like Def Jam, which was formed by Russell Simmons and Rick Rubin some years ago. That sort of entrepreneurial and cultural energy can be harnessed. It can go from making music to playing in the NBA to actually becoming a tech entrepreneur. And we think that the same principles of investment and organic, viral creativity that spurred hip hop can spur tech investment and creativity right here in Newark?
The city for some of us, city of our home, our birth, a city that we choose to do our business here. We choose to, even if for those of us who don't live in the city any longer, some of us,
But you're of the city. It's in you.
Well said, because I try to explain that to folks. I was at a feast over the weekend here in Newark. One of the many, without going into a lot of detail, there was an Italian feast at an old Italian church from my parents and grandparents were a part of. And there's nothing like it in suburban anywhere. There just isn't, because old urban churches are just part of urban life. And the point I'm making is that we choose to do our tapings here at NJPAC and at NJIT and at the museum, Newark Museum coming up, and our partners at NJTV chose to be here in Newark. There's something about being in a city, is there not? Or am I making too much of that?
Energy. Soul. I think cities have soul. And this is not to disparage.
Doesn't mean we don't have problems. No question. And not to disparage non-urban environments. I live in one too. But there's something about the vibrancy of the city. When we talk about even funk and soul in music, there was a Supreme Court justice when trying to define obscenity. He said, "Well, I can't define it, but
I know it
when I see it."
Well, the same thing with soul. Absolutely. The same thing with funk, and I think the same thing with the sort of energy that you have in places like Newark, that you feel it. It goes through you and spurs you to become creative.
You talk about investment a lot. What do you see as the potential future of this city? With all of our problems in terms of education and crime and unemployment, all the issues we sat here and talked to Mayor Baraka about, and at NJIT talked to Mayor Baraka about, and other elected officials who deal with the challenges and problems, and civic leaders who deal with the challenges and problems of the city. What do you see for the future of the city?
I see Don Katz bringing Audible.com from Wayne, New Jersey to Newark and building his business, which is also a significant partnership with Amazon.com, that sort of growth continuing. I see incredible entertainment media assets, given that you and I are both in the media business, that allow for us to tape a show here at NJPAC, to go to even a larger show at The Rock, to go over to the Newark Museum, to see Newark Symphony Hall as an historic cultural institution. There are very few communities, cities, areas that have these sorts of live presentation assets so co-located, so close to one another. There are so many unique assets, actually, to being in Newark. The proximity to the airport, the proximity to Wall Street, that we undervalue. I think the principles and the basics of the city. If Newark were a business starting out, you'd say that the basics, the underlying core assets of the company are actually very good, despite very serious challenges.
And real quick, on the technology side, what kind of future?
Very good future. Newark sits on top of, and I'm not a techie in that regard, but sits on top of an incredible hub of fiber that makes it regionally one of the core locations for fast speed, high speed internet service. So part of the benefit that we have for locating accelerator businesses and new startup businesses, tech businesses here in Newark, is based on the fact that we have access to this high speed broadband Wi-Fi and internet service.
Real quick before I let you out of here, you've had this extraordinary background in business, dealing with some pretty interesting players. You understand leadership on a lot of levels, and we've been doing this series called Lessons in Leadership that you may know about. And so I asked folks the most significant lesson they've learned about leadership in their professional life. So I'm going to ask you, number one leadership lesson you've learned so far is?
Listening. That there's a certain point where a good leader can listen and can hear not only the folks that work certainly within their employ or within their organization, but you listen to the point where you can hear new trends, new ideas, and you can activate on those new trends and new ideas. That's, again, how you can move an organization from 0 to 50 so quickly.
Real quick, why do you think it's so hard for so many of us to be better listeners?
We get in the way because we think our idea is always the best idea in the world. So we always consistently, I think, want to hear our own idea rather than the new idea, or the unique idea for that matter.
Sometimes the answer's around us, it's not in us, right?
Absolutely.
You're doing good stuff. And Bill Stephney, principal with Broad Market Media and also senior advisor to a terrific operation that Don Katz, our good partner and friend, started up, Newark Venture Partners. I want to thank you for joining us. Well done.
Thank you very much.
That was great.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato at NJPAC has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence, and by the New Jersey Performing Arts Center, in cooperation with NJTV and 13 for WNET. Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato at NJPAC has been provided by Barnabas Health, Cone Resnick, NJ Best, Josh S. Weston, the Fidelco Group, the Northward Center, and by Verizon Communications. Promotional support provided by NJ.com, Small News, Big News, True Jersey. And by NJ Biz, all business, all New Jersey. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.